Yes, at times being a PI is very interesting, but the meaning of interesting is different for each person. Now, I often will call myself a licensed professional private investigator. Us PIs go by many names. Sometimes we are called legal investigators, professional investigators, licensed legal investigators, and yes, even PI or just plain old private investigator. Luckily, today, most of the old stigma of what a PI does has been quashed in some people's minds. However, when people first think about what a PI does, when we meet them, many of those old visions come back into their minds. You know the things, the creepy old guy in the smoky office at the end of the dark hallway with a single light bulb that flickers and a dirty window overlooking an alley. Yep. That is where most of us PIs would love to work. Not really. I want to let you in on some secrets right now about what professional private investigators really do. Most of us have a professional office. Our office may be located at our house. It may be in a professional building downtown. It could be a shared office space with attorneys, law firms, and other legal professionals. Now, regardless of where our office is located, we all want our office space to be professional and organized and a well-lit area where we can get a lot of work done. For instance, here is a picture of my office space, or at least a portion of my office space. I know. There's a lot of screens, a lot of monitors there, but they all serve a purpose for my business. But the physical office is not the only office for most PIs. Most of us also have a mobile office, our vehicles. For some, this mobile office is used even more than the physical office, especially for surveillance investigators and investigators who do a lot of field work. Many times we are out in the field doing tons of work. Then we have to head back to the office to write our reports, check our emails, and take care of our day-to-day PI business things. This video is sponsored by OREP Insurance and Working PI Magazine. OREP is a leading provider of private investigator liability insurance. Visit orep.org for a quote today. So back to those secrets about what professional private investigators really do. There is no real easy way to tell you what a PI does. As with most professions, there are varying levels of specialty, and depending on education, experience, and interest, each PI will be involved in whatever specialty area of investigation fits her or him the best. Now, most PIs, not all to be sure, do some level of surveillance work. Obviously, there are a lot of PIs that specialize in doing surveillance, and they do it day in and day out, and sometimes night in and night out. And my hat's off to each of these. I know the hard work that it can be. You would think sitting inside of a car all day would be fairly easy work. But our mobile offices are not built to be sitting in all day like our regular offices. When we are out on surveillance, there's no getting up and stretching our legs when they start to cramp up. There's no running to the restroom really quick when we have to go. There's no grabbing a quick burger for lunch. The hardcore surveillance investigator that is working hundreds of surveillance jobs a year has to make do with his or her environment, and they need to make that mobile office of theirs adapt to the daily grind of daily surveillance. But not all PIs that conduct surveillance are these mobile ninjas with thousands of hours of experience conducting surveillance. Many PIs may have to sit out on a short stakeout while waiting for somebody. Perhaps they're serving process on a witness and they are just waiting down the block for them to get home from work. Or they need to interview witnesses in a specific area and they conduct some surveillance to ID those potential witnesses and then talk to them. I have found that the vast majority of all PIs have conducted some level of surveillance at some point in their PI career. But it's not all just about conducting surveillance. Most PIs will also be well versed at some level in conducting locate investigations. Like with surveillance, there are differing levels of locating people, from the simplest to the most complex. For instance, on my desk right now, I have several locate investigations. A couple of these are simple ones involving locating somebody to be served civil summonses. They probably are not hiding. They're probably not going to be too hard to find. Another one, though, has been somebody that's been hiding for some time, as there's a lot of people trying to sue him, and those allegations against him could also lead to potential criminal charges. As professional private investigators who conduct locate investigations, we have a ton of resources at our disposal. There are professional databases out there just for private investigators. You must go through a vetting process with these companies to gain access, and even then, your access is limited to specific uses. But databases are not the end-all, do-all for locating people. They are usually just the beginning of the job. These databases can lead us to relatives, to associates who we might interview to see if they can tell us where our subject is. The databases can provide information on assets owned by our subject, such as vehicles, which can help us locate where our subject is. There is so much information provided in these databases, it would be very difficult, to say the least, to go over them in this video. In fact, each database has different as well as similar data that they feature. One might provide email addresses, while another provides IP addresses, and yet another can provide links to social media sites associated with our subject. In general, most PIs will have access to 2 or more of these databases and other data resources out there. Now, the biggest databases out there today are free for our perusal. These databases are what we will call social media. Yep, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, you name it. They all have information on millions, billions of people, and most of that information is right there for you to view. Of course, you need some level of training to dig really deep into those areas on the internet, but most PIs have some level of understanding on how to conduct a basic OSINT, open source intelligence investigation. OSINT is a specialized area of investigation where PIs use the open sources available on the internet to find information about people. As with all types of PI investigations, there are, of course, differing levels of OSINT investigations. Most PIs do at least the very basic level, searching those social media sites to find somebody's account. And then there are the more serious OSINT investigators who have some serious setups and knowledge of how to use the internet and to use it to their best ability to exploit and uncover all of the information out there. Some PIs go as far as setting up fake social media accounts so they can infiltrate their subject's account as a friend, a follower, or whatever to gather more information and obtain real-time information. But sometimes the databases, the internet, and the surveillance does not have all of the information that we need to close out our case. Sometimes we need to go the extra mile to get the information that we need. Some PIs will go as far as dumpster diving to get information. Now, if you are thinking of getting into this exciting world of professional private investigations, just keep this in mind. Not all of it is as glamorous as they depict on television. Now, dumpster diving can be a very fruitful venture for a PI looking for information such as banking information, relatives information from birthday or other holiday cards, letters and correspondences, mortgage and lender information, medical information, drug paraphernalia, you name it. We all throw it away eventually. Well, not pretty, not fun. It can definitely get the old adrenaline pumping for most PIs if they have to go on a dumpster dive. And sometimes this is the subject's trash can. Sometimes it could be the subject's relatives or work or their doctor or their attorney's trash. Anywhere the PI thinks they may get the info, they will go get it. And the biggest secret of all pertaining to what PIs do is no matter what you call yourself, a licensed professional private investigator, a legal investigator, a professional investigator, a licensed investigator, a licensed legal investigator, a PI, or just plain a private investigator, when the workday is done, the report must be written. Most PIs will spend a great deal of time sitting at their desk, writing reports and conducting research. None of the investigation really matters if there is no report to tell the story about what happened during the investigation. And a PI's report could be a one-page report, could be 5 pages, 10 pages, or 100 pages long. As well, most PIs will have multiple reports for every investigation. In fact, this is best practice for most of us. A quick bonus tip for you here. If you have 10 interviews, you should be supplying your client with 10 reports. And if you have 4 follow-up interviews, you should be providing your client with 4 additional reports. Your client, usually the attorney in these cases, then can pick and choose what reports, what evidence, and that is what your report is. It is evidence in the case. The attorney can then pick which ones to enter into the court record. Most attorneys will not want to put your entire investigation into the court record for the other side to scrutinize and use against your client. If it has no benefit to your client or it may have detrimental information against your client, they're going to not want to have that in court.